all religions. The God you save may be the God yourself. The God you save may be yourself. All religions of a spiritual nature are inventions of man. He has created an entire system of gods with nothing more than his carnal brain. Just because he has an ego and cannot accept it, he has had to externalize it into some greater spiritual device which he calls God. God can do all the things man is forbidden to do, such as kill people, perform miracles to gratify his will, control without any apparent responsibility, etc. If man needs such a God and recognizes that God, then he is worshipping an entity that a human invented, a human being. Therefore, he is worshipping by proxy the man that invented God. Is it not more sensible to worship a God that he himself has created in accordance with his own emotional needs, one that best represents the very carnal and physical being that has the power to invent a God in the first place? If a man insists on externalizing his true self in the form of God, then why fear his true self in fearing God? Why praise his true self in praising God? Why remain externalized from God in order to engage in ritual and religious ceremony in his name? Man needs ritual and dogma, but no law states that an externalized God is necessary in order to engage in ritual and ceremony performed in a God's name. Could it be that when he closes the gap between himself and his God, he sees the demon of pride creeping forth, that very embodiment of Lucifer appearing in his midst? Sorry guys, my speaking, if it's a little weird, tooth issues. I'm not gonna say ooh, but yeah. He no longer can view himself in two pots, the carnal and the spiritual, but sees them merge as one, and then, to his invisible horror, discovers that they are only the carnal and always were. Then he either hates himself to death day by day, or rejoices that he is what he is. If he hates himself, he searches out new and more complex and spiritual paths of enlightenment, in hopes that he may split himself up again in his quest for stronger and more externalized God to scourge his poor miserable shell. If he accepts himself, but recognizes that ritual and ceremony are the important devices that his invented religions have utilized to sustain his faith in a lie, then it is the same form of ritual that will sustain his faith in the truth, the primitive pedantry that will give his awareness of his own majestic being added substance. When all religious faith in lies has won, when all religious faith in lies has won, it is because man has become closer to himself and farther from God, closer to the devil, if this is what the devil represents, and a man lives his life in the devil's vein, with the sinews of Satan moving his flesh, then he either escapes from the cracklings and carpings of the righteous, or stands proudly in the secret places of the earth and manipulates the fully ridden masses through his own satanic might, until that day when he may come forth in splendor, proclaiming, "I am a Satanist, bow down, for I am the highest embodiment of human life." Some evidence of a new satanic age. The 7 deadly sins of the Christian Church are greed, pride, envy, anger, gluttony, lust, and sloth. sloth. Satanism advocates indulging in each of these sins, as they all lead to physical, mental, or emotional gratification. A Satanist knows there is nothing wrong with being greedy, as it only means that he wants more than he already has. Envy means to look with favor upon the possessions of others, and to be desirous of obtaining similar things for oneself. Envy and greed are the motivating forces of ambition, and without ambition, very little of any importance would be accomplished. Gluttony is simply eating more than you need to keep yourself alive. When you have overeaten to the point of obesity, another sin, pride will motivate you to regain an appearance that really knew your self-respect. Anyone who buys an article of clothing for a purpose other than covering his body and protecting it from the elements is guilty of pride. Satanists often encounter scoffers who maintain that labels are not necessary. It must be pointed out to these destroyers of labels that one or many articles they themselves are wearing are not necessary to keep them warm. There is not a person on this earth who is completely devoid of ornamentation. The Satanist points out that any ornamentation of the scoffer's body shows that he too is guilty of pride. Regardless of how verbose the cynic may be in his intellectual description of how free he is still wearing the elements of pride. Being reluctant to get up in the morning is to be guilty of sloth, and if you lie in bed long enough, you may find yourself committing yet another sin, lust. To have the faintest stirring To have the faintest stirring of sexual desire is to be guilty of lust. In order to ensure that the propagation of humanity, nature made lust the second most powerful instinct, the first being self-preservation. Realizing this, the Christian Church made fornication the original sin. Oh dear. In this way, they made sure no one else would escape sin. Your very state of being is as a result of the original sin. That does make sense, guys. Fornication is the original sin, but our very state of being is original sin, is because of original sin. See these little quotation mark bunny ears going by? We are original sin. Every single one of us on this earth is from original sin. Yo. The strongest instinct in every living thing is self-preservation, which brings us to the last of the 7 deadly sins, anger. Is it not our instinct for self-preservation that is aroused when someone harms us, when we become angry enough to protect ourselves from further attack? A Satanist practices the motto, if a man smite thee on one cheek, smash him on the other. Let no wrong go undressed. Be as a lion in the path. Be dangerous even in defeat. Right here, right here. Since man's natural instincts led him to sin, all men are sinners, and all sinners go to hell. If everyone goes to hell, then you will meet all your friends there. Heaven must be populated with some rather strange creatures if all they live for is to go to a place where they can strum harps for all eternity. Times have changed. Religious leaders no longer preach that all our natural actions are sinful. We no longer think that sex is dirty, or that taking pride in ourselves is shameful, or that wanting something someone else has is vicious. Of course not. Times have changed. If you want proof of this, just look at how liberal the churches have become. Why, they're practicing all the things that you preach. Satanists hear these and similar statements all the time, and they agree wholeheartedly. But if the world has changed so much, why continue to grasp at the threads of a dying faith? If many religions are denying their own scriptures because they're out of date and are preaching the philosophies of Satanism, why not call it by its rightful name, Satanism? Certainly, it be far less hypocritical. In recent years, there has been an attempt to humanize the spiritual concept of Christianity. This has manifested itself in the most obvious, non-spiritual means. Masses, which had been said in Latin, are now said in native languages, which only succeeds in making the nonsense easier to understand, and at the same time robs the ceremony of the historic nature which is consistent with the tenets of the dogma. It is much simpler to obtain an emotional reaction using words and phrases that cannot be understood than it is with statements which even the simplest mind will question when hearing them in an understandable language. Just chillin'. If priests and ministers were to have used the devices to fill their churches 100 years ago that they use today, they would have been charged with heresy, called devils, oft times persecuted, but certainly excommunicated without hesitation. The religionists wail, "We must keep up with the times," forgetting that, due to the limiting factors and deeply ingrained laws of white light religions, there can never be sufficient change to meet the needs of man. Past religions have always represented the spiritual nature of man. We'll do up to page 55. Past religions have always represented the spiritual nature of man, with little or no concern for his carnal or mundane needs. They have considered this life but transitory, and the flesh merely a shell. Physical pleasure, trivial, and pain, a worthwhile preparation for the kingdom of God. How well the utter hypocrisy comes forth when the righteous make a change in their religion to keep up with a man's natural change. The only way that Christianity can ever completely serve the needs of the man is to become as Satanism is now. It has become necessary for a new religion based on man's natural instincts to come forth. They have named it. It is called Satanism. It is the power It is that power condemned that has caused the religious controversy over birth control measures, a disgruntled admission that sexual activity for fun is here to stay. It is the devil who caused women to show their legs, to titillate men, the same kind of legs now socially acceptable to gaze upon, which are revealed by young nuns as they walk about in their shortened habits. What a delightful step in the right or left direction. Is it possible we will soon see topless nuns sensually throwing their their bodies about to the miscellaneous rock? Satan smiles and says he would like that fine. Many nuns are very pretty girls with nice legs. Many churches, with some of the largest congregations, have the most hand-clapping sensual music. Also, satanically inspired. After all, the devil has always had the best tunes. Church picnics, despite all of Aunt Martha's talks about the Lord bountiful harvest, are nothing more than a good excuse for Sunday gluttony, and everyone knows that's lots more than Bible reading goes on in the bushes. The fundraising adjunct to many church bazaars, is commonly known as carnival, which used to mean the celebration of flesh. Now a carnival is okay because the money goes to the church so that it can preach against the temptations of the devil. It will be said that these things are only pagan devices and ceremonies that the Christians borrowed them. True, but the pagans reveled in the delights of the flesh and were condemned by the very same people who celebrate the rituals, but call them by different names. Priests and ministers are in the front lines of the peace demonstrations, and lying on railroad tracks in front of trains carrying war materials with as much dedication as their brothers of cloth from the same seminaries who are blessing the bullets and bombs and fighting men as chaplains in the armed forces. Someone must be wrong someplace. Could it be that Satan is the one that qualified to act as accuser? Certainly they named him that. God, I missed this. When a puppy... Hold on, guys. When a puppy reaches maturity, it becomes a dog. When ice melts, it is called water. When 12 months have been used up, we get a new calendar with the proper chronological name. When magic becomes a scientific fact, we refer to it as medicine, astronomy, etc. When one name is no longer appropriate for a given thing, it is only logical to change it to a new one which better fits the subject. Why then do we not follow suit in the area of religion? Why continue to call a religion the same name when the tenets of that religion no longer fit the original one? Or if the religion does preach the same things that it always has, but its followers practice nearly none of its teachings, why do they continue to call themselves by the name given to followers of that religion? If you do not believe in what your religion teaches, why continue to support a belief which is contradictory with your feelings? You would never vote for a person or issue you do not believe in, so why cast your... oh dear, this is a big word. ECCLESIASTICAL. I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce that word. Ecclesiastical. Vote for religion which is not consistent with your convictions. You have no right to complain about a political situation you have voted for or supported in any way, which includes sitting back and complacently agreeing with neighbors who approve the situation. Just because you are too lazy or cowardly to speak your mind. So it is with religious balloting. Even if you cannot be aggressively honest about your opinions, because unfavorable consequences from employers, community leaders, etc., you can at least be honest with yourself. In the privacy of your own home and with close friends, you must support the religion which has your best interests at heart. That's my religion. Satanism is based on a very sound philosophy, say the emancipated. But why call it Satanism? Why not call it something like humanism, or a name that would have not, or would, or a name that would have the connotation of a witchcraft group, something a little more historic, something less blatant. There is more than one reason for this. Humanism is not a religion. It is simply a way of life, with no ceremony or dogma. Satanism has both ceremony and dogma. Dogma, as will be explained, is necessary. I'm going to post the chapter I really want to read. Okay. Satanism differs greatly from all those other so-called white witchcraft or magical groups in the world today. These self-righteous and supercilious religions protest that their members use the powers of magic for only altruist purposes. Satanists look with disdain upon white witchcraft groups because they feel that altruism is sinning on a layaway plan. It is unnatural not to have the desire to gain things for yourself. Satanism represents a form of controlled selfishness. This does not mean that you never do anything for anyone else. If you do something to make someone for whom you care happy, his happiness will give you a sense of gratification. Satanism advocates practicing a modified form of the Golden Rule. Our interpretation of this rule is, do unto others as they do unto you. Because if you do unto others as you would have them do unto you, they in turn treat you badly. It goes against human nature to continue to treat them with consideration. You should do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But if your courtesy is not returned, they should be treated with the wrath they deserve. What kind of religion? White witchcraft groups say that if you curse a person, it will return to you threefold, come home to roost, or in some way boomerang back to the sender. This is yet another indication of the guilt-ridden philosophy which is held by these neo-pagan pseudo-Christian groups. White witches want to delve into witchcraft, but cannot divorce themselves from the stigma attached to it. Therefore, they call themselves white magicians and base 75% of their philosophy on the trite and hack-eyed tenets of Christianity. Anyone who pretends to be interested in magic or the occult for reasons other than gaining personal power is the worst kind of hypocrite. I do it for personal power. I just straight up do it all for the personal power. Nothing but that power, man. Sorry. It's like 4 in the morning here, 4:43. And I'm very, very tired and I haven't slept in a couple of days. It's been hard to sleep. So, just a little quick breaky from this. That's just fine. If anything doesn't sound right or whatnot. Oh god, I love this noise. I think while I read the rest of this, I'm gonna light a candle. So this